our Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. You know what I like to do on the show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want to get you fired up about adventure and about ocean life. Now, you guys know that I am a beach baby, so anytime we are talking about ocean life, I love it. Now, my guest today is Raj Behera, and he has written the book Pink-Conch. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about Raj. Raj lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with his wife and two sons. He works for SAP America at Palo Alto office and is very much interested in innovative ideas, technology, spirituality, mysticism, and yoga. Apart from his social life, Raj has vision for social stability and peace on earth, water, air, and ether. Raj loves to travel, listen to music, biking, beach walking, and helping kids in STEM, as well as spiritual education. Well, you know what I'm about to say now. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Raj. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
Now,
Thank you for inviting me.
I love the fact that you are talking about ocean life. We have a tendency not to speak very much about our beautiful and vast oceans out there unless we're talking about like global warming or we're talking about we need to clean up the oceans with all of the stuff that we're putting out there. But you are also talking about it from a sense of adventure. Now, before we get into that, I want to ask you, did you realize that you were going to be an author at this point in your life? Is this something that you've always wanted to do?
Well, it's a very good question, Sanjala. I'd like to thank you for inviting me to your show. So, yes, it is true. I never wanted to be an author, neither I had a desire, but somehow the situation turned me to really write something interesting about my experience in life, especially the ocean life, because as you mentioned earlier, I love to be in the kind of peace on earth, peace on water, and peace on everything. So when we are declaring peace on earth, how about peace on water? How about peace on ocean? How about little creatures, the aquatics, are they affected with the global warming? And how the two characters of this ocean from Pacific, they, like Neil and Goldie, the adventure and the journey to attain peace. That prompted me to really write the book.
I love it. Now, I have to ask about the title of your book. Did you find that the title came to you first and you wrote around the idea or the theme, or did you find that as you were writing, the title came out of your writing?
Yes, so it is a mixed thing. So let me tell you one thing. So the title in my cover page of the book gives you the person is blowing a conch, and he is Krishna, and who gives in the same great war of the Indian War, which happened 5,000 years ago, and he's blowing the conch because of his reddish lips connected with the whitish conch, it becomes pink. And that is the combination, which is the pink conch is also found in Bahamas, the really peace-loving aquatics. From these two characters, I was inspired to write something, a great novel to give to my readers.
I love it. I love it. Now, how do the aquatics of the ocean, we hear that all things in nature must have or maintain a sense of balance and harmony. And when you're talking about the ocean, how do we achieve aquatic harmony?
Very good. So if you see, just like Martin Luther King Jr. said, the darkness cannot drive our darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Similarly, back in India, like Mahatma Gandhi. He also mentioned it would be best if we do not faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. So there is, as you mentioned, the cooperations of the aquatics. I give an example. Law of nature say jiva jivasya jivanam, means everybody has to live in other life. But human being has a tendency to encroach, to really dictate over many other living beings. But in the aquatics life, there is no such dictation. If they are hungry, they go and hunt for a fish. They go and hunt for the lower aquatics and they sustain themselves. So there is no question of enmity, hatred amongst the aquatics, rather than they live in a harmony, and those harmony is coming from, which is imbibed and practiced, and that is a coexistence living trend which is there in the ocean life. But for humanity, because of our mind, because of our superior intelligence, we try to really coerce, we try to dictate, we wanted to control. That's why these things disturb in the ecological condition.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about something that you refer to as the wisdom box in your book. And it looks like it's helped the characters Neil and Goldie. But before you tell us about the wisdom box, can you tell us a little bit about those two characters and what is this wisdom box?
Sure. So let me start with wisdom box. Wisdom box is a collection of different level of wisdom which is stored, and Mincy Granny, which is a kind of a grandma of all the fishes in Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, our Pacific Ocean. Mm-hmm. Goldie and Neil are both friends, and everyone calls Mincy Granny, and Mincy Granny is very popular because she is likely the great grandma and giving the wisdom whenever they have problems, whenever there is any systematic attack and harvesting to the fish, harvesting to the aquatics. Mincy Granny gives likely great wisdom to the people and to their aquatic friends to guide them how to really cooperate with the humanity so that we are not attacked, we are not under threat all the time. How to be the oil pollution, the noise pollution. There are various fiber optical pollutions in the ocean. So Grandma gives this whole idea from the wisdom box, and wisdom box is nothing but contains the values and the logic of life and instruction and how to utilize it in leading a superior lifestyle without being frustrated. So that's why both the characters and the wisdom box comes into picture.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Now, did you find that as you were writing that you were inspiring yourself in any way? I know that many times when I talk to various authors, you have an idea, you want to get the information out, and you want to share your knowledge. But as you're sharing, you're reminding yourself of something, and it just kind of inspires you to keep going. Did you find that as you were imparting wisdom in your book, that it encouraged you as well?
Yes, and it is very interesting because when an idea comes, you are very inspired to do something. But when I started writing my book, after 2 pages, I'm done. I said, well, all my ideas are flushed out. Well, what I do? Now I go and watch a film like James Bond film, which is the Thunderball Grotto or the Black Coral Gardens of Bimini. So when you find out, you find so many interesting things which comes into your mind. Then I really watch the Grand Bahamas and the Lord of the Milky Ocean, which is giving us the wisdom and inspiration. So when you really recollect yourself, then it really expanded my mind, and I really got different ideas and to expand my books, which is contained in the same feature, how Neil and Goldie are adventuring, but at the same time, I really give the wisdom to my friends. And this is the inspiration by really watching a movie, reading the greatest scripture which is written by our great teacher like A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He has given me such knowledge. So from there I really got the whole thing, and that inspiration contains in my book.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And it's so interesting how I find that many times we think that we are along a particular path to do a certain something, but along the way we find that we are as encouraged as our hope is to encourage someone else. I just love how it works like that. Now, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, and we're talking about the two cultures. How have you been able to connect the culture between the Americas and India?
Yeah. So, as we know, because my book talks about especially the ocean. So just imagine the Panama Canal, which is connecting to the Pacific, to the Atlantic, and also Mihir Sen from the India who crossed the Lanka Canal and Suez Canal. So the ocean, the views, it is connecting from Pacific to Atlantic to the Indian Ocean, and the pattern is same. When the uniformity of the water, uniformity of the thing is there is a little difference. Just like you can see Columbus, which came to America, but his original intention is to find out where India is, but he landed in America. So that's why the whole culture of Indiana and native Indians which comes into picture. Because we have a great tradition, India and America, which is born by the journey in the ocean, which is coming from Columbus. And not only that, we have also great traditional values, which is serving to the humanities, which remains in Indian culture as well as American culture. And being born in India and also grown up in America, I have mixed cultural, blend from both this side, both these countries. So I wanted to give in my book how these two cultural views through the two fish, Neil and Goldie, they started the journey from Bay Area, which is San Francisco, and they ended in Bay of Bengal in Jagannath Puri back in Odisha, India. And they discovered a great pattern of complete cultural dimension thinking in India, and then they give us back to the American culture. So that's why it is interesting and phenomenal.
I love it. Well, Roger, it's almost time for us to go to break. And if you would please, before we do that, can you remind everyone what is the title of your book, where can we pick up a copy, and how do we follow you or contact you online?
You can get my book in Amazon. It's called Pink-conch. You can just type Pink-conch book in Amazon. You will get it.
Alrighty, listeners. Now you know where you can pick up a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Discovery, not just a sec.
What would it look like if we listened more? Could the right voice, the right set of words, bring us all just a little closer? Get us to open up, even push us further? It could, if we took the time to listen. The most inspiring minds, the most compelling stories. Download Audible and listen for a change.
Anne, Camilla, William and Fred. The four in the Humvee are on a perilous journey, halfway across the country to a tent city near the Mississippi River, a long ways from Boston. Through each bend and turn, they meet some people in need and others who have evil in their souls. Four unlikely heroes in a Humvee on an unlikely trip, the recipe for a captivating story. Grab this book, EMP Casualty by Michael Kravitz.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spot with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know, I always want to keep you inspired. I want to start your day off on a great note. And today we are talking about ocean life and adventure. If you're a beach baby like me, if you love the ocean as much as I do, then I think that this is going to be a great conversation for you to especially tune into. My guest today is author Raj Behera, and he has written the book Pink-conch. Now, I know that many of you say conch or conch or conch there are different ways depending on where you live in the world. But yes, that's what we are talking about today. Now, Raj, I want to ask you a little bit more about what is this divine pink-conch that we are talking about. Can you describe it? Can you give us a little bit more information? There may be someone who's unfamiliar.
Sure. Thank you very much, Angela. Thanks for, again, we're back. I would like to really give a little bit clarity on what the book really gives you. One thing is, first we need to learn what the conch means and why it is a pink conch. Many people might have, when you go to different river, different ocean, in the beach area, you will be able to collect small to bigger size of conch, which is already available. So now there is a peculiar conch, very interesting, called queen conch. It is intrinsic to the Bahamian way of life. Means if you know the Grand Bahamas, if you go to the Bahamas, you will find a lot of queen conch or pink conch. Generally they are pink in shape, pink in color. So we'll be able to know their marine lifestyles and their Bahamian lifestyles. So the Neil and Goldie, they are looking for peace in their life because they thought San Francisco Bay Area becoming noisy, becoming too polluted, and so many things are happening. So they wanted to go to a serene place where they can find peace. And in order to find out, their grandma, like Minsu Granny, she recommended from the wisdom box and gave a gift to them. Hey, you take this one and do your adventure. So they started their journey from San Francisco to Bahamas. They have gone through all the Mexican beach area, as well as they crossed the Panama Canal. It was such an adventure journey. Then they reached Bahamas. When they reached the Bahamas, they are very curious to know the peculiarities of the conch, and that is technically called Lobatus gigas. And they produce like millions of eggs, and there is also harvesting going on, and various the sectoral shell patterns of this conch was also known to them. Now, what does it mean? Ultimately, when they find out that the conch life is also not peaceful because they have been attacked, harvested, eaten by the humans. So who are the peaceful? They wanted to go from the wisdom box, found out there is a special conch named Panchajanya, which is the divine conch which was there, and they wanted to explore, to start their journey from Bahamas to Bay of Bengal. So when they are starting their journey from Bahamas to Bay of Bengal, so they have to go through the Indian Ocean, which contains of the Arabian Ocean. Then they will find out the different layers of mix of the Atlantic and the Indian Oceans, how the pattern, how the color of the ocean changes. They got the mystical experiences during their journey, and finally they're able to see the divine conch. The divine conch is a land where there is no sorrow, there is no anxiety, there is no quarrel, there is no short living, there is nothing pretty much. So everything is Satchidananda, like bliss, eternal, and always happy. So when they reached the land, before that part, they made a friend called Jamba Crow, which is also not an eater of the fish, rather than friend, and he has given all the guidance which is also mentioned in the wisdom box. Because as you know, we have Arctic Ocean, North Atlantic Ocean, South Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, North Pacific Ocean, South Pacific Ocean, and Southern Ocean. So all are different, the varieties of their color of the water body, the temperatures, and the various wave patterns, stormy patterns that gives us, and with the great hurdles, with the help of the wisdom box, they reach the Bay of Bengal, where they are looking for the divine pink conch. And once they attain the divine pink conch, then they got the real peace formula in their life.
Mm-hmm. You know, I love the way that you described it, and I think it paints such a better picture for those who were unfamiliar. I want to ask you, and I thought that you said it, and forgive me if you didn't touch on this, but do you think that people realize that the oceans are all connected? It's, so many times we think, well, I'm on the East Coast, so I have this particular ocean. I have the Atlantic, or I'm on the West Coast, so it's just the Pacific. But do you think that people realize that they're all connected in some way, shape, or form, that one flows into the other?
Yeah, it's fabulous. I think all humanities are connected now through mental connection. Because even though you are in East Coast, I'm in West Coast, based in California, we are connected via these mobile phones or telephones. So similarly, all the oceans have it is called the veins of God, like where the flows, the waters, just like the rivers are flowing at the, rivulets, which is coming off to the ocean. Sometimes it is considered the Bailey, and sometimes it is considered the veins of God. So in terms of connections, yes, just imagine Pacific Ocean to Atlantic Ocean, there is a distance and man-made called the Panama Canal. So Panama Canal connected Pacific Oceans to Atlantic Ocean, because otherwise you have to travel 1,000 miles in order to reach to the Atlantic side. Now you can really reach to the Panama Ocean, Panama Canal, and then you can go. So that means if there is a little bit of land, but man has made it connecting, because without connecting all the ocean, it is impossible really to pass through these two gentlemen, our Neil and Goldie, which they did their adventure journey from Pacific to Indian Ocean. They reached. Definitely, Panama Canal was also a great gift of our scientists, our Americans. They gave us the gift to the people that you get. Hey, Neil and Goldie took advantage of that.
I love it. We definitely are all connected. If we look at the ways in which we are more alike, the ways in which we are connected, I think that we would be able to achieve a better sense of harmony if we look for those connectors instead of the things that separate us. I have to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and also I wanted to add, as you mentioned about connections of these 7 oceans, so there are, you might know, in like the Middle East, we call Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, the Bay of Bengal, the Strait of Malacca, the Singapore Strait, the Gulf of Thailand, the South China Sea, right, which are there. So similarly, we have 7 rivers back in India that is called the Ganges, that is called the river of liberation, calm, as good as the Pacific, which is compared with Pacific. The Yamuna, the river of love and adventure, as good as the Atlantic. Godavari, the river of sacrifice, as good as the Arctic. Saraswati, the river of learning, as good as the Indian Ocean. The Narmada, the river of peace, as good as the Gulf of Mexico. Sindhu, the river of longevity and beauty, as good as the Arabian Sea. Kaveri, the river of the mountains, as good as the Antarctic. So these are all comparisons which is given in my book. And, this is like cultural connections between America and India you'll find out in some portions. So that's why it is very important.
And it's really interesting that you've mentioned so many different names, and I know for our listeners they're going, yeah, I know, I've heard of the Ganges River. Yeah, I know that too. Or how you mentioned the Panama Canal, and they're like, yeah, I've heard of that too. When we talk about it, we can see how, yeah, I've heard about that. I know where that is. And we start to put the little pieces of the puzzle together. But I think that so many times we are so zoomed in. We're so micro about what we're doing that we look only at our little bubble, and we forget to zoom out and look at the macro of it all and see how each one touches another in action, be it that it's human beings or it's ocean life, but how we're all so interconnected. I love that. Now, one thing that I want to ask, and I tend to do this for my authors, for my aspiring authors out there, because there's somebody out there, you know who you are, you're thinking about writing a book, and you're just not sure. So if you don't mind, Raj, I would love to ask you some questions about your process, about how you chose to write your book. So my first question is, so many times we have an idea of we need to be in a quiet place in order to write, or we need to remove ourselves from others. Some people like the idea of like the Starbucks over in the corner with your laptop and your earbuds in. What type of environment or atmosphere did you need when you were writing?
Yes, very good questions. And actually, I live in a house where I have a small garden in my backyard. It's a very beautiful place, and sometimes, we have the bumblebees and we have various birds chirping there. And I go and sit down there. And I have a little monkey, my younger son, Abaya, and my elder one, Balaram. And Abaya comes sometimes and he gives me editing. Oh, Dad, you are doing, wrong. You don't know how to write good English and things like that. But still, I find it interesting. I write most of the things, or I go to a beach and took 2-3 hours and just write, think about, my ideas. I put it down, then I come back. Oh, I got those things. Then I come back and write in my garden. So that was the core concept of writing the book.
I love it. Now, while you were writing, did you have an end goal in mind? Meaning, did you say, today I'm going to write a chapter, or today I'm going to write a page, or X amount of words? Were you that type of person? Because some people want to do that. Then there's the other side where it's, I'm just going to write until the words stop flowing.
So this is really pretty good, because I had my publisher like Ex Libris. They are also following up when the book would be ready for you guys. And I made an internal goal in my mind, not about chapter, because initial first 6 months I have written maybe 10%, and next 6 months I have written 90%. So because initially it's really hard to articulate and to bring your ideas, to write something, penning down and writing a book is not easy. Then there are complex thinking which comes into picture, because you need to present Neil and Goldie, their grandma, like Mincy Granny. Then they made a crow, like Jamba Crow. Then I have to, remember from the Hollywood movies and some NBA basketball players, their games style and how they did behave in Bahamas. Combination of various things, and also some angle of spirituality, which gives us that how this thing is not giving it just a dry thinking, rather than it is giving an essential thinking for the humanity in general.
I love it. I love how you have just given that person who feels that they're stuck, or that they're not doing it correctly, or they're doing it improperly, you've given them permission to just be, to just write the way that they need to. I love how you said 6 months, it could be 10%, the next 6 months it was the other 90%. I love it, because that's the truth. That is real. Yeah. Each person has their own way, has their own style, and let me tell you, it is true. There are some times when you're writing and it flows, and then there are other times where it's kind of like a little drip, if you will, but it keeps on going. I love it. Well, Raj, thank you so much for spending some time here with me on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today. I have truly enjoyed my conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. If you allow me to really recite one poem which I have written down, it will take 1 minute. Is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah, so that's why for example, I also introduced the concept of Lord of Milky Ocean. So the eyes of the Lord of the Milky Ocean defeat the exquisiteness of blossoming lotus flowers, and his neck so elegant that the gleam of mirror reflects the blue gemstones. The chin of the Lord of the Milky Ocean, tinged with pink, surmounts the loveliness of jasmine flowers. These intensify the beauty of the Lord of the Milky Ocean, smiling, which is like radiant surfs of divine nectar. The luster of the pink lips of the Lord of the Milky Ocean, and the beautiful face rise at every moment, and the eyes of millions of beings mesmerized like bumblebees in the trance of honey, feeling such immense pleasure upon seeing the expression of the Lord of the Milky Ocean. The Lord in his golden form as a human forgot everything.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Oh, wow. I really like that. Thank you so much for sharing. Raj, thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
And listeners, thank you as well for tuning in and spending some time with us today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord. Have a great day. Bye-bye.